Joining us now is Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's professor of strategy and irregular warfare at the Institute of World Politics and the author of a book called Defeating Jihad, and a regular guest with us, especially on mornings like this. Good morning, Dr. Gorka.
Good morning. Well,
the governor of New York, he's saying it is terror. And by definition, I would assume it would be if bombs go off in New York. But you have the mayor of New York City saying it's too soon to say that. What do you say?
You don't usually set off pressure cooker IEDs on the 4th of July. And I think 4th of July was a while back, wasn't it? I mean, it's absurd. Of course this is a terror attack.
All right, so it's a terror attack. We're going to be speaking to the governor a little bit later. However, let's look at these bombs in particular. They're different from the Boston bombs, we understand, because of the detonator. One was used a remote car, to use remote cars. This one was used with a flip phone. What does that tell you?
Well, we have to wait. The huge aspect of this incident is getting one of the devices intact. So you know right now that second pressure cooker is being examined thoroughly by the FBI's bomb technicians. It will be potentially a treasure trove of evidence. The Richard Reed shoe bombing, if you recall, 13 years ago, we were able to identify one of the people who assembled those devices for Richard Reed from a palm print that was inside the device. So hugely important. Let's not forget also, in the Boston bombing, it wasn't just pressure cooker bombs that were used. When the Tsarnaev brothers were being chased by the local law enforcement, they actually threw pipe bombs at them. So there's another potential jihadi connection there. We've seen this modus operandi of pressure cooker bombs with pipe bombs being used already in Boston.
Right, and apparently, according to the police, speaking to some of the news outlets down here, Dr. Gorka, the pressure cooker bomb, along with the other things, were packed with nails and ball bearings so that when they explode, they could inflict the maximum amount of damage. What's interesting is apparently the bomb that was found on 27th Street, the pressure cooker, there was a handwritten note apparently inside, and a portion of it in Arabic. Also, we know apparently that the explosive is tannerite. What is tannerite?
Tannerite is called a binary explosive. It's not really a high-speed explosive. It creates a shock wave when it is hit by a projectile traveling at more than the speed of sound. So it's used for recreational purposes. If you fire a rifle at a little canister of tannerite, it creates a big boom and a big cloud of smoke. It's not, for example, like the ammonium nitrate IED, the fertilizer-based explosive we've seen in the past, or the other one. So this is a commercially available substance. Somehow it sounds as if they were able to turn it into the primary load of this device.
Dr. Gorka, if this is in fact inspired or directly sponsored by ISIS, among people who have said this shows the progress we're making against breaking up what was supposed to be a caliphate in between Syria and Iraq, that shows the progress we're making over there because they got to do these small devices over here. Is that how you view it? Tim Kaine is among the people who said that.
No, absolutely not. I look at the last 2 years and I see the Islamic State fighting a two-front war. They're using violence in the region, in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, to consolidate and expand the territory they hold. And through Dabik, through their magazine, through their Amak propaganda site, they are promoting attacks on the soil of the infidel. Just look at the last 2 years. Look at Paris. Look at Brussels. Look at the horrific attack in Nice. Look at Orlando. Look at the priest who was practically beheaded in his church. This is guerrilla warfare, low investment, very cheap, but with high yield. That's exactly what we've seen in New York and in New Jersey this weekend.
Dr. Gorka, we also want to ask you about Minnesota, but just for the folks at home, if they aren't familiar with it, tell them about the details of what happened in that mall there. It's a Fox News alert. ISIS claiming responsibility now for the stabbing rampage inside the Minnesota mall. The attacker asking some of his victims if they were Muslim before slashing them. He has been identified as a 22-year-old. His name is Jihad Aden. He was born in Somalia, moved to the United States 15 years ago as a child. He was a junior at St. Cloud State University, just 3 miles from the mall. He was shot and killed by an off-duty police officer. 3 of the 9 victims are still in the hospital, but they're all going to be okay. So, Dr. Gorka, what do you make of this? Because he grew up in Minnesota, in that where a lot of Somali refugees are growing up, and where ISIS and al-Shabaab have recruited more people from that area than anywhere else in the U.S.
Correct. This is a real hotbed of jihadi recruitment in the last 15 years. We've seen this before. Let's not forget, since September of last year, the Israelis have suffered scores and scores of knife attacks. They actually call this the knife intifada in Israel. So we may be seeing this coming to America. And this tactic that was used to try and identify if you're a Muslim and give you safe passage, this is something we've seen already. We've seen this in Mumbai. We've seen this in the Dhaka attack in Bangladesh. So anybody who says they're surprised by these attacks doesn't know what they're talking about. We have seen all of this before. Pressure cooker bombs, knife attacks, pipe bombs. This should surprise nobody who follows national security issues.
Yeah, apparently the guy with the knife told his parents he was going to the mall to buy an iPhone 7. That's not true. You know, and all the law enforcement over there, Dr. Gorka, have said, you know, it's lucky there was that off-duty police officer who had a gun who was able to take this guy out.
Yeah, where were the other officers in the mall?
It's always the same. You can only stop a bad guy with a weapon with a good guy with a weapon. It is a blessing that that off-duty officer, who I understand is not from that jurisdiction, was inside that shopping mall and neutralized this terrorist.
And by the way, another example of a politician letting his people down, here's Governor Mark Dayton, a Democrat out of Minnesota, in 2015 saying this about those complaining about their community.
This is St. Cloud. Everybody who's here has a right to be here as much as anybody else, and if you can't accept that, then find another state.
Yeah. Clean up that community first.
No comment. It's not you don't have a right to be in a community if you're a terrorist. If you're a threat to this nation, whether you're a jihadi, whether you're a fascist, whether you're a communist, if you don't have values that comport with the U.S. Constitution and you're going to use violence, then you are a threat to this nation. So unfortunately, politics is trumping national security yet again.
Well, in the coming days, we'll find out whether or not this guy was in touch with ISIS or simply ISIS-inspired. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy Monday.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.